Hi, everybody. All right. So it is November 21st, 2022. and sadly, the remains of Quinton Simon have been found in a landfill, just as the police originally expressed. Um, they are waiting. So the remains were found on Friday. They did. Uh, the FBI was able to test to determine that the remains are definitely human. And I think there's a little bit of confusion about that on some of the channels. But the testing by FBI has been done, and they are human remains. But what they're now waiting on is they're waiting for the DNA test to determine that it is unquestionably Quinton Simon. It I think that, it's not a lot of toddlers that go missing. I don't know what other toddler you would expect to find there exactly where they were looking for Quentin. So I think the cops are really certain. um, they did arrest Leilani late this afternoon in Georgia. They were waiting on the FBI determination that it was in fact human remains. And once they got the notice that they had tested positive for human DNA, then they did arrest her. They did not give her an opportunity to go in on her own as she had claimed that she would. And I'm glad for it. They showed up and they did the perp walk. They went in, they took her and walked out. So she is now in custody, and she is currently waiting on a bond hearing. She's got 4 charges against her, one of which is felony murder. I don't believe that she'll be given a bond that that Billie Jo could reasonably put together. I don't think Billie Jo's going to want to. You know what I mean? I believe that Billie Jo absolutely adored that baby. And I think now that he's been found and that question is answered, I think Billie Jo will wash her hands of Leilani. I don't look for Billie Jo to support Leilani at all. I really don't. After the lies that Leilani told, the interviews they did, I mean, in one of the interviews, she's looking at Billie Jo's looking at Leilani like Leilani is some alien that's just been dropped onto the planet Earth. She's looking at her with complete confusion, like, who is this person? Um, so she could see that Leilani wasn't crying and grieving. Billie Jo could see that. She just didn't want it to be true. She wanted someone to have Quentin and the cops would find the baby. That I think that's what she was hoping for. So I think at this point now, I think she will withdraw all support for Leilani, as she should. I would support that 100%. I think that Billie Jo has got to now turn her focus on herself, get herself into therapy, get in touch with the state and start working on a reunification plan for the 2 other children, and get those kids back home. Um, and I think she needs to really turn her energy and her focus on the living children. And I think she should wash her hands of Leilani and be done. Leilani will never leave prison. She's done. Now, just get ready. This, any negative feelings that I may have had for Leilani, they're definitely negative at this point. Um, when I saw this, I said, you know what? Lock her up and throw away the key. Don't show that bitch not an ounce of mercy. And that was when I saw her mugshot. Yeah, she's angry. She's angry. She's being defiant. It's pretty it is shocking. Billie Jo needs to be locked up for neglect to all three of those kids, but mostly for Quentin. They did address that, Sharon, in the press conference. The sheriff made it very clear they were not arresting anyone else. They fully believe that the one person who did this was Leilani. Now remember these cops, within a day, they got some form of information that told them that that baby was in the landfill. There was rumor that there was a camera and they saw her putting something into the trash can in the early morning hours. So I just, they're not going to hold any, they knew where Quentin was. They got something that said that baby is going to definitely be in that landfill. And the FBI came in with the necessary training and equipment skills to do it. And the baby was right where they said he was going to be. So, this photo of Leilani, she's not even trying to pretend. Her eyes are so dead. She doesn't care. She looks angry. She looks irritated. She looks like she is being done wrong, like she's a victim of some sort. And really the best thing I can say is, welcome to the effects of the wonderful world of drug abuse. There is still long-term effects of drugs, and part of that is the disruption of the limbic system, the amygdala, providing corrective emotion. And if you have damaged that part of your brain, if you have numbed that part of your brain, then you may be capable of doing horrendous acts of violence and not have an ounce of guilt or remorse. Remember, Leilani herself said, let me see if I can find it. Must be on this one. Leilani herself said, right there in the very middle of this card, Leilani herself said, whomever did this should be punished fully. Okay, Leilani, done. Let's see if Leilani decides to try to fight the charges, or if she stands by what she originally said and she tries to make a deal or pleads guilty. Let's see what big talker Leilani is going to do. I've got a name for you guys. Jodi Arias. What did Jodi Arias say to us? Same exact words. Whoever did this, should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And if I hurt Travis, I would beg for the death penalty. Do y'all remember that? Well, not only did she plead not guilty and conduct the dirtiest, most disgusting defense ever known to man by accusing the victim, who had been over murdered, of being a sexual predator. Not only did she do that, she didn't beg to get the death penalty. She did the exact opposite. She made herself look like a fool, saying, oh, if you'll just spare my life, I'll cut my hair and give it to children that need wigs. And I thought, you are the most disgusting creature on the planet. And then we met Leilani. Anyone that would lay hands on that baby, at, it, unimaginable. Danny described the child as a quiet child, well-behaved, smart, happy, that he was good kids. That Quentin was a good kid. This child, there's no explanation. A quiet, well-behaved, smart, happy child has to be assassinated by his mother. For what reason? Oh, he was inconvenient. She had another one, and now she had to figure out how she was going to get her drugs done, right? So I'm, it may sound like I'm being a little bit harsh, but when you have the ability to murder a 20-month-old baby and then party your ass off and stand there in front of your mom and the press and talk about how much you loved him and you were just waiting on that phone call. Well, the phone call came, didn't it? With some little specialist clickety-clack bracelets just for Leilani. And I'm going to tell y'all, don't look for Leilani to plead guilty. This one, that mugshot, she's going to trial. You watch. It's disgusting. So if you haven't seen it yet, because this was late breaking news, I'm going to go ahead and play. This is the sheriff and the FBI agent. And, I'm going to warn you, the sheriff is quite emotional. And that's a really good thing to see in a law enforcement officer. It's good to find a law enforcement officer that you can feel connected to, because they're really, experiencing the human emotions that you and I are experiencing. This guy, he really cared about what he was doing. He really wanted this baby found. And notice they managed to do their job in a way that wasn't going to interfere with the prosecution of the case. And they didn't have to march in front of people's houses and keep people awake all night. They didn't have to do any of that nonsense. They just kept their head down. They stayed focused on the goal. And they basically did the impossible by finding that baby in that landfill. I mean, it's really impressive. It really is.
Good evening, everybody. Jeff Hadley. I'm the Chief of Police for the Chatham County Police Department. I'm accompanied this evening by Will Clark with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This afternoon, Chatham County Police Department detectives arrested 22-year-old Leilani Simon and charged her with malice murder, concealing the death of another person, false reporting, and making false statements in connection with the disappearance and death of her son, 20-month-old Quinton Simon. Leilani Simon is being held at the Chatham County Detention Center and is awaiting a bond hearing. We do not anticipate any other arrests in this case. She has been the sole suspect from the beginning. On Friday, our search teams at the waste management landfill found what they believed were human remains. This afternoon, the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, confirmed that they are, in fact, human remains.
Okay, so just to be clear, there's some confusion. I've heard some channels. They have confirmed that Quantico has tested the remains, and they have said, yes, this is the DNA of a human being. What they're waiting on is verification that it is Quentin. But they know that it is the human remains of a baby. They know that.
Additional testing, including a DNA analysis, is being conducted, and we have every reason to believe that this will confirm the remains are Quentin's. This is a heartbreaking development for everyone who loved Quentin, for the many people who came to know him after his disappearance, and for our department. When we first received the call that Quentin was missing, we were hopeful that we would find him alive and unharmed. But as we have been telling you for weeks, all of our evidence pointed to his mother being responsible for his death and disappearance, and his remains being found in the landfill. I would like to thank the many people and agencies who worked hard to ensure that Quentin was found, that he would have a proper resting place, and that justice would be served. First and foremost, I want to thank the FBI. We are incredibly grateful for their invaluable assistance. Their expertise, their manpower, resources, and guidance are unmatched and were crucial in our efforts to find Quentin. They were on the scene within 3 hours of Quentin being reported missing and have assisted with every aspect of this investigation. The resources they poured into the landfill search are extraordinary and are the reason that we were able to find Quentin. I can't thank them enough. Chatham County Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division also deserves special recognition. Their devotion to Quentin, to making sure this crime did not go unsolved, is an example of police work at its finest. Our detectives worked tirelessly and were determined to follow every lead and uncover every piece of evidence in this case. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, and Department of Natural Resources all had officers searching the landfill alongside our officers and the FBI. The support of the Chatham County Emergency Management Agency, Chatham Emergency Services, Chatham Occupational Safety and Health, Savannah Police, and Savannah Fire also were invaluable in this massive effort. Finally, I would like to thank the many people who showed their support for our department during this incredibly difficult and important investigation. We appreciate those who kept faith in the system and waited patiently for evidence we needed to make sure Quentin has every opportunity to receive the justice he deserves. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Will Clark, who has some comments from the FBI.
Good evening. My name is Will Clark. I'm the Senior Supervisory Resident Agent of the Savannah and Brunswick offices of the FBI. 1 month ago, we began this landfill search alongside Chatham County Police Department with one purpose in mind, and that was to find Quentin and to bring him home. On Friday, search crews from the FBI and Chatham County found what we preliminarily believe are partial remains from a human child. Those bones were immediately sent to our lab in Quantico, Virginia. Additional testing for potential confirmation is now underway. It could be days before we have final results. What happened to this 20-month-old child is unthinkable. No child should be harmed by anyone, let alone the person in their lives that should be their protector.
Yeah, it's
This
obscene.
investigation does not end here.
Terrible.
There is more work to do. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to find justice for Quentin. Thank you.
So much
Thank you, Will.
loss.
Appreciate
It's just
that.
terrible.
We'll try to answer some questions that you may have. Just be mindful that there's many we may not be able to answer, but we'll be willing to take some questions at this time.
You charged Leilani with murder. You guys found bones in the landfill? Is that?
We found human remains. Yes, ma'am.
He just said, okay, that's a little frustrating. She said, well, did they find bones? Well, yeah, the FBI said they found bones.
Could you? I didn't hear the first part. I'm
Do you
sorry.
believe that Quinton Simon was alive when he was in the landfill? Do you believe he died before he was put in that dumpster?
I can't answer that question.
You've charged Leilani with murder. Can you speak on whether you think
See, this is the kind of thing that really irritates me, right? I don't, and I don't know if it's appropriate. It's probably inappropriate to be irritated by it, but well, first of all, so the FBI agent says we found bones and they're being tested, and then the police the chief of police stands up then, to answer questions. And some reporter says, oh, so did they find Quentin's bones? Yes, they just told you that. Were you listening? So that's a little bit irritating. And then the next question after that is, oh, well, is it possible that Quentin was alive when he went into the landfill? Why? Why are you asking such a thing? Are the circumstances not bad enough? Why do we want to introduce an additional element of horror and trauma? No, I think the cops saw what they saw, and they recognized that she disposed of something, um, and they knew what it was. And I no, why would she put a live baby in a dumpster? That's just a crazy. It's just a nutty question. I just lose my patience with the media. I do. I shouldn't, but I do.
What evidence you all confirmed or learned on Friday led you all to go ahead and make that arrest specifically for today versus earlier on?
Well, as we had said from the beginning with the landfill, we had every belief that Quentin was there in the landfill. Having found what we found on Friday and the preliminary findings from the FBI that we got today led us to make an arrest today. We feel that we have a very strong case. We have put thousands of hours into this, and we believed that this was the right move today to be able to do that. She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quentin deserves that.
Mm.
You said that you didn't believe it.
Heartbreaking.
Would you made, are you guys looking into Billie Jo at all?
We are not.
And so you just to confirm and having clarified that you all were looking to find some sort of remains from the go ahead and move forward with the arrest.
That's correct.
Chief, would the charges have been the same in this case had you not made that discovery on Friday? Say if this case had continued, if the search found nothing in the landfill, would you still have been able to make a case for Quentin to have justice, or how significant was this find?
Well, it was very significant, obviously, for obvious reasons. We do believe we had a strong case otherwise, but that would have been in counsel with the Chatham County District Attorney's Office, but we believe we had a strong case otherwise.
You've certainly been very personal about this, and you said in that landfill that day with the picture behind you, you said, we want to make sure we bring Quentin home and we give him a final place of rest. You wanted him to be able to make sure he wasn't in that zone. On Friday, how personal was that find for you?
Well, it was very personal, quite frankly. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to that. I mean, knowing the hard work that went into this investigation, everybody, not just Chatham County Police Department, but everybody that chipped in, the FBI, GBI, DNR, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, the civilians, you name it, from A to Z, we were 100% committed to bringing justice for Quentin, and to appreciate the amount of human effort, the amount of human emotion that goes into a case like this, and to appreciate, hopefully, that this comes to a conclusion in terms of a conviction and things of that nature. You have a lot of emotions about that. You also have a lot of emotions as just a general human being, as a person who has children.
Yep.
You see the impact that has on people. So if you step back and take a moment to kind of absorb that, I think that if you didn't have any feelings about that, you might have to ask yourself a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not having a feeling of sadness, and if all you're being driven by is we got another cash cow, we go out there in the street, we can yell and scream and cuss and get the cameras focused on us and get people to give us super chats because we're going to be responsible for the arrest of whoever did this. If that's you, well, you may need to do some soul searching. These are here's a little bit of insight. So a lot of us are really sad. I mean, we knew that it was coming, but when it finally comes, then it's just terrible, and here's what we don't think about. we see the photographs or the video of this absolutely beautiful, precious little kid, and the loss of all that potential, and we can see the bigger picture for what the loss really means. But here's what you and I don't see. Here's what we will move past. You saw the rows of FBI agents and policemen that were painstakingly, inch by inch, going through the landfill. You're talking about 6 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, their head bent down and literally looking at 10 square inches in front of their feet for 3 solid hours. And you know what they're looking for. I'm not going to say it, but you know what it is. What if you're the guy that sees it? What if you're the officer or detective or FBI agent? It's you're the one that sees the baby. You're the one that finds the skull. So the ones that went out there for weeks through this, I mean, basically the worst working conditions on the planet, the most arduous environment, not being able to breathe and not, these people deserve a medal. But for the few that first saw Quentin, they're traumatized tonight. They've got images now in their mind that they can never get out. They'll be put into therapy. They'll be taken off the roster for a while and have some time. But it is terrible. As evil, let me put it a different way. As evil as what Leilani subjected Quentin to, as evil as that was for a mother to do this to a baby, discard him in a trash bin, the ones that went out there day after day after day looking, those that were committed and did the hard, just soul crushing work, they are as good as she is evil. So also this Chatham County Police Department and the agents that responded to the complaints in front of Billie Jo Howell's house, there was some really bad things said by a couple of YouTube creators that were basically creating a circus. These people should be thanked for. I'm talking about the police, the FBI. These people that did this, they really need to hear, appreciation, especially after the circus that went on and the way that this sheriff was talked about. Bullhorn Betty said things about the sheriff that you can't even make sense of it because it's so crazy. She's walking around there, strutting around and saying things like, this sheriff is incompetent because they didn't arrest, Billie Jo or Leilani. She wanted everybody arrested. She's the only one that knew, and she's the only one that could do this. She's the only one. Well, we talked about it in my channel. As soon as you make an arrest, you've got legal, you have legal restrictions on you at that point. The clock is ticking because you have civil liberties, one of which is, you have the right to a swift and speedy trial. And so what a lot of people don't pay attention to is the fact that the law enforcement part of this process, they're working hand in hand with the prosecutor's office. They're talking to them, and it's an ongoing conversation. And they're saying, this is what we found. This is what we've got. This is what you can go to trial with. And then the prosecutor is saying, well, I'm not sure we're going to get a conviction with that. You've not brought me anything that would inform a motive. You've not given me this. You've not given me that. And so then the investigators go back and they start looking for evidence for what the prosecutor has requested. Well, if you jump the gun and you make the arrest, then you have lost that freedom to sort of go collaborate with the prosecutor and try to give that prosecutor evidence that they're going to need to get that conviction. And it's not only just, here's our conviction. You're wanting to go to the perpetrator. You're wanting to go to them, and you're wanting to be able to lay out your evidence and say, you know what, Leilani, you're screwed. Like, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. We are going to get a conviction against you. And if you force us to do this, if you force us to go to trial, if you force us to spend all this money, then we're going to make sure that the people get their money's worth. We're going for the death penalty, girl. So now I don't know if Georgia has death penalty. I'm just saying they're using it as leverage. So, here's what we got. Here's what we believe we can prove. And if you force our hand, if you say not guilty, we're going for the death penalty. There'll be no more deals. There'll be no more backing away. We'll get you. Promise. And then they'll wait a little while and give her time to consider. And then her attorney may come back and say, well, wait a minute. What if she pleads guilty to manslaughter and something else, and you can get life in prison without parole? Well, then the prosecutors may be like, well, okay, so if she's willing to do that, then we're willing not to go to trial. But look, just like in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, the Nicholas Cruz case, they tried, I think they had like 11 offers for a deal. And the prosecutor's office laughed and said, no, hell no. This thing is going to trial, whether your boy wants it or not. There will be no deals. We're done. We're going all the way on this. So the prosecutor always is holding the ace in the hole that it doesn't matter what Leilani's attorneys offer. If this prosecutor if Leilani pissed them off and they're not going to give, if they've got good enough evidence, they may very well say, no, we're not making any deals with her. Hell no. Sure, we're going to make an example out of this girl. And, they could do that. So, strutting around in screaming obscenities and playing baby sounds in the middle of the night, that doesn't do anything except, disrupt the peace of the community. It won't force the cops to do what they're trying to do, because unlike a YouTube creator who all they got to do is just talk loud and fast and people will give them, super chats, an attorney, the chief of police or the sheriff's office, the district attorney, they got to be able to get a conviction. If they don't have enough that they can go in and convince that perpetrator that if she goes to trial, they're going to get her. Like, she has no wiggle room, no way she's getting out of it alive. Then she'll plead, she'll take a plea deal, and then you can avoid a trial, right? So that's why there wasn't an arrest, Bullhorn, because they didn't feel like if they had arrested her, that they legitimately could have gotten that conviction that would have legitimately put pressure on her to say, no, I'll accept life in prison. Just don't try to kill me. Right. But if you're a YouTuber and you're not really interested in a conviction, that's not really what's driving you. Perhaps what's driving you is your channel, your career as a YouTuber, trying to get as many super chats as possible. Then you will walk around out there and scream and yell and, print, be tough and talk crap. And you will do that because you're putting on a show. You're no different than a Hollywood actor. You're creating an illusion of something that's just not real. Those going out in front of people's houses is not solving cases. If anything, it's interfering with the cops trying to do their work. That's the reality. And now that they have baby Quentin, and I think, my opinion, I think they must have a Ring doorbell or some sort of camera security footage, something that showed Leilani at that dumpster disposing of something in the early morning hours. With those two things together, it'll be done. She'll be stupid if she tries to go to trial. It'll be useless. Okay. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and finish playing this, but I do want to put into the chat. Here is the Twitter link to Chatham County Police Department. I am requesting, because of the embarrassment of what happened with the YouTube creators that went out there and made all of us look like clowns, please go to this link and just leave a message for Chatham County Police Chief, as well as all the agents there, and just thank them for what they've done. The searching the landfill, resisting the obscenities and the attacks, and just this guy was traumatized. Just watch. This was a terrible. This touched him. This hard to watch.
Evidence collected outside of the search in the landfill, the remains that you guys found on Friday. Is there any evidence you guys found in the searches you guys did of pool, cell phones, or computers, or anything that also led to the arrest?
I can't answer that.
Has Leilani's status as a flight risk changed, or did it change prior to the arrest?
No.
Chief, you say this is preliminary. You would assume there isn't other human remains in that landfill, but until you get it fully 100% confirmed that these are Quentin's remains, what makes you confident to make the arrest today?
I can't get into the high level of detail, but just on some of the preliminary information that we got from the FBI, we have a high level of confidence that those are Quentin's remains. And we felt that we needed to make the arrest today because that was the right thing to do.
There's a
When you
lot
say
of pressure
human
in the last.
remains, what kind of remains are we talking when you say human remains? Any more specific details about?
No, ma'am. Go ahead, bro.
Chief, this case has been one that has made national news. There's been a lot of pressure.
I will say that if you go back and listen to the part where the FBI regional director is speaking, he does say that they found Quinton Simon's bones. So we would assume it's probably the skull, because that would be the largest bone, easiest thing to see. That's just an assumption, but he absolutely does say bones.
Pressure against you personally, with your name out of the mouth of protesters, out of the mouth of people in the community. You've gotten a lot of pressure about making this arrest. Standing here today and knowing that you have this key piece of evidence that you just said, what kind of message do you send to the community? For the people, that had your back, that said, yes, we're going to wait on the police to do this. And then to the people who said this arrest should have happened almost 50 days ago.
Well, I didn't honestly feel a lot of pressure, quite frankly, only because I believed in our investigative process, the expertise that we were seeking that was around us, having a little bit of experience, in this profession. I understood people's perspective. I understood that, some people had their own strong feelings about when an arrest should be made and things that were going on. But we stayed focused on what we know and what we know how to do.
Okay. He's the professional. He's the guy with the training and the experience, right? He's the one who's in touch, working hand in hand with the district attorney's office and with the FBI regional office. They know how to conduct an investigation, and that's what they were doing. They're not. Here's where so channels like Bullhorn Betty, who have adopted this belief system that creating a circus, creating an environment of chaos, that will exert force, pressure on the victim, or I'm sorry, the perpetrator or the perpetrator's family, that will create uncomfortable pressure on those people, and then they'll break under the pressure, and they'll say, no, for God's sake, whatever you do, I'll admit to everything, just don't play baby sounds anymore. Okay, well, first of all, you're just being ridiculous, because this is real life. It's not Hollywood. And a 20-year-old who would put a baby in a dumpster, her own baby, isn't going to be affected by recorded crying baby noises and screams of baby killer. You got the wrong girl. She's not feeling anything. Now, you damn near broke Billie Jo. She was affected by all of your foolishness, but she's not the criminal here, is she? I accept there are many people that believe that Billie Jo should be charged. Perhaps neglect, maybe. Maybe, I don't know enough about the law to say if there would be a charge that, she was given custody of the children, and she should have known leaving the kids with Leilani would be dangerous, and so she abdicated her authority. But can I be honest? How many parents in this country do leave their children in dangerous circumstances? I mean, we've got a real problem in this country with drugs and alcohol, y'all. I know that is not a popular position for me to take. I know people want to be able to drink and not feel bad about their drinking, or use drugs and not feel bad about their drug use. But I'm going to tell you, your drug and alcohol use is changing the way that your brain processes information and the way you feel emotion. And when those changes happen, you're different. You can engage in things that you never would do if you were sober. It's just true. We have a real problem in this country. We have got to cut back on the alcohol consumption and the drug use. We've really got to. Everybody got on their high horse and really came down hard on the whole prescription pain medications, and all that being, the pill mills that were just churning them out, no doctor kind of true, treatment or anything like that. And they did a good job. They did dramatically cut down on it, and the pendulum's kind of swinging back a little bit now, but they did get a lot of that cleaned up. Unfortunately, that just opened the door for fentanyl to come in. And so those people that were using, heroin and pain pills are now, killing themselves with fentanyl, but that's a different problem, I suppose. But no one, as passionate as people have been about the opiates, the pain medications, they're equally aversive to accepting that there's too much drinking. there, it's a silly thing that you have alcohol being sold in drugstores, in pharmacies, healthcare stores. Same thing with tobacco. They're selling cigarettes in Walgreens. It's not okay. It's just not. We've got to develop a healthier overall view of from the populace that there are some things that we should try to limit a bit, and tone down the alcohol and drug use, because it does change what we're willing to engage in. So anyway, this guy, he's the professional. The people he was working with, they are the professionals. They are the ones that are trained and know what to do. And just because you've got some YouTube creators that somehow think that they are qualified or even have the knowledge to engage in psychological warfare, psyops, which is just silly. You didn't even do it right. Like, I know what you were trying to achieve, but you were all wrong. You lack the expertise to understand how to target a particular behavior, refine the variables so that you understand what the conditioning variable and response would be. You didn't even know. You just thought, well, I'll just go out there and be as offensive as I can possibly be. And then if I'm willing to be offensive, then we will solve the case by forcing Leilani to admit that she did it. That's about the limits of your thought. And you were completely wrong. But this guy right here, they're the trained professionals. They know how to do an investigation. They were working with the prosecutor's office. They knew what it was that they were after, and they finally got it. So without having the body, any evidence that they had collected would be open to a defense counsel just interjecting, reasonable doubt. There's no reasonable doubt here. The baby's gone, and they can go to trial now. And if they can go to trial with a reasonable expectation of a conviction, then that means that they have a lot of leverage to use against Leilani to get her to plead guilty to something that will keep her in jail for a very long time. So overall, what do we learn from this? Well, these guys are to be commended for, having faith in their training and their knowledge, and not to let a bunch of, drunk bozos, or what she say, drunk hillbillies, go out there and be obnoxious and obscene to try and, force Leilani to do something. This was very public for this police chief. I think this police department tried really, really hard to accommodate the protesters and not go out there and just start mass arrest. I think they did try. I really do. But they finally had enough and said, we're about to drop the hammer now. But I hope you guys will go to that Twitter link and just leave a thank you and just an apology even for what happened. This guy called it a money making circus. And woo, man, that got Bullhorn did not like that. Not a bit. And I think there's some. It's not just. Don't get me wrong. It's not just Bullhorn Betty. There are others, plenty of others, and that's one of the problems with this. If the requirement to be a true crime YouTube creator is you're willing to be as obnoxious and offensive as what is publicly appropriate, if that's the only requirement, well, guess what? Just like my dad always said, there's always somebody meaner right around the corner. There's always somebody richer right around the corner. There's always someone willing to go to further extremes than you are. So don't choose negative power and pressure to try to manage a situation, fall back on what you know is right. Be motivated toward positive goals, and then work toward making that a solution. People that think that they're going to like browbeat you into submission, attack you, shame you, public humiliation, they're just wrong, because there's always somebody worse than you, and they will find you. So, we started out with a couple of YouTubers that thought they could go out there and be obnoxious and offensive and force someone to change. Other people watched, other people saw money being made, and those people said, well, hey, I can go out there and get drunk and act stupid too. And at Leilani, with this thing with Billie Jo Howell's house, there was actually even a clown, literally a guy in a clown suit. And he now has a channel, General Awareness is the name of the channel. So we gotta just, there's gotta be some standards. I have reached a point that I don't want to tell people that I do true crime on YouTube, because it's embarrassing. I don't want to be associated. The behaviors, they've just gotten, it is a circus. I think the chief of police has it right. It was a circus. And Quinton Simon didn't deserve that. There was no reverence regarding his disappearance. There was no prayerful contemplation. It was just, it was Lord of the Flies. These people were out there in the middle of the night. They were drunked up. They were pilled up. They were messed up, screaming, dressed in costumes, yelling obscenities, trespassing, threats with bats. No, we got to draw a line. So this guy, he kept his head down. FBI kept their nose to the grindstone, inch by inch, every day, going through that mountain of trash and filth, knowing what they were looking for, dreading and hoping and praying they didn't find it. Inch by inch. Those inches, those moments, just step by tiny step, elbow to elbow, covering every square inch. At the same time they were doing that, you had dumbasses in front of Billie Jo Howell's house with the camera rolling, yelling obscenities. So who are the real heroes here? The people willing to make themselves look like clowns, all for $1? Or are the real heroes the men and women that went out there day after day after day, inch by inch by inch, looking for the most dreaded thing that they could ever imagine? Who are the real heroes? So good for this cop. Good for him ignoring the circus that came to town, staying focused on his professional knowledge, working hand in hand with the prosecution and with the FBI, and building a case against this. I'm not even going to call her a monster. I mean, a mother. Let's call her monster. Building a case even in the face of these clowns.
And in conjunction with the FBI, we stayed the course. And so to those folks that supported us, to the citizens that believed in us and believed in our department, I thank you. And for those that had questions, that's their right to do so. This is America. You can have all the opinions you want, but I'm just so proud of our team and where we're at today.
As far as today's conclusion, do you feel like there's a
Please go thank this department, this police department, please. You can see how
Sure there is.
traumatized this
I
guy is.
wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that there was, some weight lifted off of the organization and particularly those detectives and investigators who were completely and 100% committed to seeking justice for Quentin. So there is a little bit of relief, but be mindful, there's still a lot of work to do. And they're dedicated to doing that. And we want to see this to successful prosecution.
I got it harder. Is the landfill search over?
We haven't made that decision yet. That's a decision point that we'll come to once we're able to get some more analysis done. And we'll confer with the FBI and see what the best course of action is.
And Leilani is also charged with making false statements. What false statements did she make?
I can't get into that.
Is she cooperating with police right now? Is Leilani cooperating with police?
She's at the Chatham County Detention Center right now.
And for her to go back,
I think one thing that she's been charged with making these, inaccurate statements, lying to the police, basically. I think we know for sure. One of those statements that I think was super important is that she blamed the dad, it's a Bubba Moss, right? Remember, she said that first day, she said Bubba Moss came and took the baby, that Bubba Moss came and kidnapped the child. So there you go. There's no getting out of that, Leilani. You're screwed.
Back to the initial question that I asked about whether or not you guys found bones in the landfill. Because Mr. Parker said bones, and you said human remains. Which one is it?
Well, human remains, some of that are some of them are human bones, and some other evidentiary matters.
and as far as the bond, is there, do you all have any updates as to when that will be the bond hearing, when that will be?
I do not have that confirmed. I do believe it'll take place tomorrow, but I don't have any time or any confirmation on that. We did, take her to the detention center rather late in the day. So I'm sure that information will come out pretty soon.
Leilani made a statement to me that she would turn herself in. Was there any talk of giving her that opportunity?
No.
Chief, you said in the beginning that when we're at the landfill, you said that there was a very specific dumpster that this child was put in. Can you just give us the location of that? How far this was from the house where Quentin was last seen?
I can't give you that information.
I just have one more question. Can you just give
Last
us
question.
an estimate on how long this analysis could take of what you guys found?
It could take up to a week. And I have one last comment, and I want to thank you guys. Because just like sometimes law enforcement gets the short end of the stick, you guys get the short of the stick too. And you guys have been amazing, our local media throughout this. You've been fair, you've been direct, you've asked good questions, and you've, given us some deference when we needed some deference. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your work that you do every day.
Did y'all catch the emphasis? Thank you for your work. Did you get that? That Bullhorn Betty, the rest of you guys, YouTube people that were out there, that was a statement directed at you. That was a comment saying, local media, thank you for conducting yourselves with good journalistic standards and not adding to our job, not making things hard for us to do our job. Unlike the true crime YouTube creators who were out there, doing what they did. Look, I'm not doing an I told you so. I want to be really clear on this, okay? This is not for I told you so. Let me explain what this is for. This is imploring you not to do this again. Please don't do this again. There will be more crimes. I wish there wasn't, but they will be. They will be there. We will take an interest in them. Currently, we're all just consuming anything we can find regarding the 4 Idaho students. I've been really caught up in the young woman that was basically, I think, murdered in Mexico. I think she absolutely was beaten, and the person that was beating her is a trans, and basically it was a genetic male beating this female, and I think he broke her neck. And thankfully, thank God, the FBI is looking into the case. But look, the reality is that there are going to be cases. We are going to get interested in them. We are going to discuss them. But we are not. We on YouTube, we are not investigators. You're not, Bullhorn. You're not an investigator. And no amount of obscene, offensive, antisocial actions are going to make you an investigator. You're never going to force a criminal to admit their crimes, Bullhorn. You know that, don't you? You know that. You don't even, when you wake up in the morning and you begin to get dressed and you're thinking about what you're going to do for the day, not for a moment do you sit there and go, yes, I'm going to go out and be an investigator. No, you know damn well what you're doing. You're putting on a show. You know you are. And the reason I know that you know that you're putting on a show is that you got Chronicles of Olivia documenting it. The way that Go Lightly was telling Olivia where to stand to get the shot, and then her suddenly jumping into action with this vicious and really harsh screaming that she wasn't doing the hour before that. She only got into this crazy screaming when Olivia was in position and began recording the profile of Molly. You guys, you're putting together. This is a wag the dog thing that you guys are doing. You don't believe that you're going to solve a case. You don't believe that. I know you don't believe that. You don't. Y'all are smart. And there may be some of these people that may think that, you guys don't. Y'all know exactly what you're doing. You are creating a spectacle. It's sort of like welcome to Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, the greatest show on earth. Except we don't have Barnum and Bailey's, do we? We have Bullhorn and I don't know, others. I'm not even going to repeat all of them. You're creating a spectacle. You're creating a flea circus. You don't believe, not for one moment, that you're going to solve a case. Just stop. At least call it what it is. At least be honest about what you're doing. Or if you're going to go to these places to cover the story, could you do it with some dignity maybe? Could you just behave in a way that, if you had children or grandparents with you, they wouldn't be embarrassed by you? Could you do that? Now, I get it. I get that the more embarrassing you are, the more outrageous your spectacle, the more cyber chats you get. I fully understand that. But just because it is that way doesn't mean it should be that way. Right? You're going to create a situation, I fear. You're going to create a situation with all of this nonsense that YouTube is AdSense, Google, they're going to watch this and they're going to go, you know what? We can't have this anymore. These people are beginning to do things now that are dangerous, and they're doing it because we're paying them money to do it. So we need to back off from this. We don't need to be paying them anymore. So the new rule on YouTube is true crime doesn't get any monetization. That's coming if you guys continue this crap. You're becoming a spectacle. You have your antics have caught the attention of mainstream media, the FBI. It's going to the pendulum swings both ways, and it's fixing to come back and knock you in your ass. I am expecting they're going to start arresting you guys. They are. Y'all, what y'all did in front of Billie Jo Howell's house, that poor community. And here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to pressure a psychopath into admitting the murder of a 20-month-old baby. And you're damn sure not going to force a police chief or an FBI regional coordinator or sheriff. You're not going to pressure them into abandoning what they know is their professional knowledge. They're going to conduct their investigations the way they've been trained to, and they should, because they're not done when there's an arrest. That's just the beginning for getting a conviction. So I hope you guys, I hope you guys will think, will come up with a different model for what you're trying to achieve. You can do these things. You can go to these locations. You can film and do these discussions and talks related to these crimes. Olivia can make her look. You're lucky. Olivia's as talented as the day is long. I mean, her videos. She's wonderful. Do a good documentary. Tell the story accurately. Interview some of the tertiary people. But for God's sake, don't go in there like gangbusters, like somehow you are the number one law enforcement agency and you're there to teach everybody else how to do their job. Quit interfering with a successful investigation and what could be the prosecution of a murderer. Quit inserting yourself. Stop. This is going to end up in a bad place by evidence of, look at the effect you had on this chief of police right here. It's time for it to come to a stop.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the Twitter link for the Chatham County Police Department. You could obviously hear the broken heart, the stress, frustration from the chief of police. He thanked the media for their respectful coverage of what happened, and basically saying the YouTube creators were ridiculous. The money-making circus came to town, correct? So I hope that you will go to Twitter, to this link, and leave a comment thanking this police department and this chief of police, thanking them for this just heartbreaking investigation. And just let them know that not everyone on YouTube is insane. You know what I mean? So, all right. I wonder what Cher is thinking now. I don't know. I will tell you this. I think that Billie Jo somebody needs to help her get to a medical provider right now. I think this is going to be very difficult for her in a way that didn't have to be. I mean, it's going to be horrible regardless, but I think this, you add in the effects of the YouTube insanity. Man, come on. You guys have got to quit. You've got to quit victimizing people that are connected to these crimes, whether they're the law enforcement, whether they're the family members, whether they're the friends. You have to quit or something bad is going to happen. This is going to be, I'm telling you, what happened in front of Billie Jo Howell's house was like Lord of the Flies. It was, for people that were not emotional and not involved, our jaw was on the ground. We were horrified watching people running around out there in Halloween costumes and crying baby noises. And y'all don't ever do that please don't ever put yourself in that position again. Don't let it devolved into something that was inhuman. Don't avoid that. There are limits to what people should do for money. There are limits. And here's the reality too. If you're not sending them super chats when they're out there running around in the middle of the road, carrying on like that, getting arrested, screaming and yelling at each other, playing baby noises, twerking, if you're not sending them super chats, guess what? They're not going to do it. They're not out there doing it because they, believe that is the right and good and moral thing to do. They are creating a spectacle on purpose to separate you from your cash. And that you may think I sound cynical. You may think I sound judgmental. No, I don't ever want a replay of what happened at Billie Jo Howell's house. It was even a poor reflection on the baby. Where was the solemn remembrance of that 20-month-old child? Where were the prayers? It's just like people lost their humanity. It's just like people just went bananas. And it's still going on. We had a creator the other night that was so drunk, ordering her subscribers, you better send me super chats. It was unbelievable. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not even going to talk about it. But the point and purpose is this. Here's the link to the Twitter account for Chatham County Police Department. Please go there, leave a comment of support, thank the chief of police, thank the investigators, the FBI agents, those people that spent literally hours and hours and hours wading through people's trash with the horrific nightmare of a job looking for a baby. Go thank them. Let them know that we appreciate it. Try to undo some of the, social damage done by the damn YouTube circus came to town. And I hope you guys will refuse to super chat people that do this in the future. It's got to come to an end before somebody gets hurt. It's got to. This has just gotten crazy. So, no, they don't. I've learned a lot. I agree. Hey, Jen, welcome. Formerly Miss T, please. The alleged call between Cher and BHB said it all. Now, see there go, Joe. That is something I'm not familiar with. I don't know what you're talking about. The alleged call. Summer is next for justice. FBI and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation need to take the lead in her case. Oh, agreed. Absolutely, Thomas. 100%. Thank you, Jerry. They do deserve medals. Absolutely. Yep. Paperwork is saying a 0 bond on Leilani. Yeah, they're waiting on the bond hearing. It's going to be in the millions. It won't be anything that anyone could come up with. Um, oh, that's such a good point, Jerry and Denise. The babysitter. There you go. Somebody just decided, oh, if we can't get to Leilani, if we can't attack Leilani, why don't we go after the babysitter? Let's pay the babysitter $5,000 for an interview or whatever, right? Yeah. This poor woman, she was reaching out to the police. She was begging for help for that child. She's the one that told the police that she saw Danny driving through the neighborhood early that morning. Okay, so the people that were trying to make her be the perpetrator, you only did that for money. You only did it for spectacle. We've got to stop this. If you're talented, here's the reality, okay? People come to YouTube and they're hungry for content. They want to watch something worthwhile. Well, if you're talented, and maybe some of you guys, maybe the talent that you have is not really commercial, like I don't think my YouTube videos would be something that would be commercially viable, right? I think we have a good community and we enjoy discussing these cases, and I can bring information related to human behavior and whatnot. I can bring a high level of factual expert knowledge on that and how it can affect human behavior and criminal activity. But this group, you got Chronicles of Libya. She's absolutely talented enough to make a documentary level quality film to document whatever you guys decide to do. But what I'm saying to you is what you don't need to do is try to do this obscene kind of psychological warfare, being offensive and gross, attacking the law enforcement to their face and tearing down, their department, going after individual citizens that are connected to the family through friendship or work. You guys have got to quit that. You were breaking all kinds of laws. If Diana decides to sue you, you're in trouble because she will win. So rethink your strategy to be one that will reflect well on the true crime genre on YouTube. Think about the type of reputation that you're building, not just for yourself, but for the genre where you're marketing your channel. Have some dignity in what you're doing, and then the growth you look at Linda on It's a Crime or Plunder. There's a Scott Reich. These guys are making true crime content, and they're not breaking laws to do it. They're not creating a circus out of the nightmare of losing a 20-month-old baby or a baby that turns out was murdered. Rethink the way you're going to do this. Instead of being focused only on the super chats, focus on putting out a product that you're proud of, that will get a lot of views, that will get passed around because it is worthwhile to listen to. Anyway, okay, I'm done. I don't want to ever talk about this. I don't ever want to talk about this money making circus. I don't ever want to talk about it again. I really don't. I'm just, it's just awful. So I am finished. I hope that you guys will go over and leave supportive comments for the law enforcement that did the heartbreaking job and were able to find the baby. We'll wait and see. I think her bail will be in the millions. I don't think she has any chance of getting out. I don't think she'll ever get out again. And then, keep our fingers crossed for Michael Vaughn. I would like to say one thing. I really haven't seen this corrected very much, but I have been busy. I've been working, so I haven't watched a lot. But there was a post that was put out with the Idaho 4. There was a post that was put out by someone who claimed to be one of the girls sleeping in the basement that was there at the time of the murders, who did not witness anything. And in the post, she claims that, she talked to the Ethan and his girlfriend when they first got home that night, and then they all went to sleep and they didn't hear anything. Okay, that is a fake post. The cops have come right out and said clearly, no, the bodies were not bound and gagged. They were not. So, if you see or hear people saying that again, it really changed the way a lot of people were looking at this, and it needs to be corrected, because that's a huge assertion, and it is simply not true. You got to wonder what made this person post this. And I think it was a troll. I don't think it was anybody related to the killings. I think it was just one of these troll people, one of these sensationalist kind of people. I don't think it was nefarious. I don't think it was a person that was associated with what happened. I think they were just, being like a troll, looking for attention, right? That's how those trolls roll. All right. So please contact the chief of police, the police department of Chatham County. Thank them for the work they've done. Pray for baby Simon and those that loved him, because there will be an incredible amount of grief. And oh my goodness, keep our fingers crossed that we don't ever see that circus come to town again. All right. Y'all have a good evening. I know it's terrible, sad, awful news, but at least Leilani Simon is in jail, and I doubt she will ever get out again.